Claire Trevena. Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon, Matthew.
This government campaigned on a promise to bring Uber and Lyft and ride-hailing services to BC by the end of 2017, and now it looks like we'll wait until at least 2019. What is the delay? Why is it taking so long to get this done?
There really isn't a delay. We want to get this done right. What we're looking at initially, what we announced today, was an increase in the number of taxis working in the Passenger Transportation Board to get the number of taxis on the road up by about 500 across the province. Then we're looking at starting to get that data collection that we need to have a proper modern system. So we're going to be starting on that and start with some app hailing of cabs and more flexibility in fares at that stage. So that's the first stage. The second stage is the legislation, which is really ensuring that people will be able to travel safely, drivers will be able to operate safely. That is my number one concern, is that we get this right. We've seen it fail in other jurisdictions. We've seen places swamped with rideshare or rideshare pulling out. We want to make sure that we get it right in BC.
There are other places in Canada where ride-hailing does work. Why can't we just take what they've done there and apply it here?
Well, we have a different structure in BC. We are unique because we have both the provincial, we have the Passenger Transportation Board, which is an independent tribunal, as well as municipal involvement. So it is a different structure here in BC than in the rest of the country. And as I say, what I'm looking at is very much making sure that people, I hear the demands from people all the time about we want rideshare now, but we've got to put people's safety number one, and looking at it methodically, having the full consultations we've been having and will continue to have, doing the legislation means that we will be able to ensure that when we do deliver, it will be a product that everybody is able to feel confident in.
So what specifically are you seeing that are the risks? What are you seeing in other places in Canada or abroad that are the negative effects of ride-hailing that you're trying to avoid here?
Well, there are a number of things. I mean, we obviously have a very high safety threshold. For me as Minister, that is my number one priority, to make sure that people who both use a service are safe, as well as those who are driving the service are safe. So we've really got that as, for me, that's the number one filter. But we've also got to be looking at other things. So we are dealing with insurance, we're dealing with congestion is one of the things, and that's why we want to make sure we get the data.
Why try to preserve the taxi industry? I mean, if ride-hailing provides a more convenient alternative to people that would disrupt and displace and perhaps make the taxi industry obsolete, isn't that just the way the market works?
That may be the way the market works, but we have many thousands of people in BC whose lives depend on the taxi industry. It's been an industry that's been established for a long while. What we're doing is modernising the taxi industry, improving our legislation so it both modernises the taxi industry and enables rideshare, if they want to come into BC, to come in more easily. I have to remind your listeners that rideshare, if they wanted to come in now, could come in now. They just choose not to because the rules they believe are too stringent. So we have that opportunity at the moment. We haven't seen any applications. We're making things easier. We're creating what we're hoping is going to be a level playing field. So by September next year, rideshare will be able to come in with a modern insurance package, and people will have that option of either choosing a cab, which they have had the ability to do for many years, or to use one of the new services that comes in.
But if ride-hailing threatens to put taxi drivers out of work, why not focus government resources on helping those drivers find other ways of supporting themselves rather than protecting the industry as a whole?
Oh, well, I think that this is several stages on from where we are. What we have at the moment is we have obviously taxi working, or taxi will continue to work. We're opening the way for a new service to come in. There will obviously be at that stage, there will be the competition and people will have that choice. I think that's down the road. Let's make sure that we have an industry that is modernized as best we can, as well as creating the opportunities for new entrants to the market to have the ability to compete and see what happens at that stage.
Minister, I want to make sure this question is fair. So when your party criticised the Liberal government for the laundered money scandal, we took hard questions to the BC Liberals about donations to their party from the casino industry, which were substantial. Your party has received $223,000 in donations from the taxi industry since 2005, according to Integrity BC. To what degree has that influenced your decision-making here?
As far as I'm concerned as Minister, it's had no influence. What I'm looking at is public policy. I'm looking at ensuring that we have an existing industry that is allowed to develop in a modern way, that we can support it. As I say, in BC there are more than 8,000 families that depend on taxi, and that's significant, 8,000 jobs that are there, so that's a significant issue. But we also have to modernise it because people do expect to be able to use the newest techniques, whether it is an app hail or however it is going to evolve. People want that, and our legislation is old. We need to renew it, and that's what we're going to be doing in the fall. We're going to be bringing in changes to a number of acts that will create the area where we can have that competition.
Finally, Minister, the applications for ride-hailing companies, you expect them to be able to come in September 2019. So when do you think people could expect to be able to use ride-hailing services legally in this province?
Well, it's when the Passenger Transportation Board, who is the independent tribunal, is able to assess the ride-hailing applications, whether they're taking them in sooner or later, the speed that they're going to deal with that. I'm going to have to leave that up to the Passenger Transportation Board. But as I say, we are going to have things in place by the end of this year. The legislation will be fixed. Then we just have to wait for ICBC to develop its new product. They have to wait for the legislation too. And at that point, we'll be able to see applications come to the Passenger Transportation Board.
Minister, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Matthew.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's BC Minister of Transportation, Claire Trevena.